Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137.
Hello, listeners. Nick here with your forecast for the weekend of October 4th, 2025. Friday, in the clear under mostly sunny skies. High, upper 40s. Wind, west, shifting northwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour, increasing to 15 to 30 miles per hour. Friday night, in the clear under mostly clear skies. Low, lower 40s. Wind, northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour, increasing to 25 to 40 miles per hour with gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Wind chill 25 to 35 above. And Saturday, mostly in the clear under mostly sunny skies, high in the lower 50s. Wind northwest at 25 to 40 miles per hour with gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Looking like a fantastic weekend with well above seasonal averages up on the rock pile. Happy hiking, stay safe, crush some peaks.
Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and beyond. Here are your hosts, Mike and Nick.
All right, so we are episode 210. Welcome, Nick. Welcome, Marilyn.
Hello?
Did I pronounce your name correctly? It's not Marylyn, is it? It's Marilyn.
It's Marilyn.
Marilyn.
You pronounced it correctly.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you for joining us. So Nick, I was just getting the show intro ready to go, and I found that this one was extremely difficult because you've been hiking way too much, and I had to type all the places
stuff.
You've been hiking.
You could just say Nick's been doing some recent hiking instead of going into each thing.
Well, last episode I just said that you were up on a family trip, but I didn't realize that you snuck away and did about 1 million hikes.
Well, it's also been a 2-week gap for the behind the scenes for the listeners, so
right.
Got up to New Hampshire and Adirondacks.
Were you sad that Stosh took over your role for the week, or do you not care?
No, I think he did a great job. I'm not opposed to people taking over my role. I got to listen to it back in real time, so that was nice, because usually I kind of already know what to expect since we're sitting here recording it. So that was fun.
Right. Well,
did a great job.
Back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I appreciate it. So welcome to episode 210 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. So this week we are joined by Marylyn Styles, race director for Aravaipa Running White Mountain Endurance Races. Marilyn is a longtime endurance athlete and avid New Hampshire hiker and trail runner. She's going to give us a recap of this summer's White Mountain Endurance Race Series and talk about a bunch of other things, and she's going to jump in whenever she feels like it when we're talking about other stuff. Plus, fall is here. The leaves are changing. We've got some updates on fastest known times on the AT. We've got some stuff. We're going to talk about self-defense. Marilyn, you look like you can defend yourself. So we'll talk about self-defense on the trail. So,
nice. Awesome.
all right.
That'll be good.
Right. And then we've got some recent hikes. I did something on King Ravine, and then Nick, super hiker here, did Hawthorne Falls. He's in West and East Garfield, Flume Gorge, Wildcat D. He did a bunch of stuff out in the Adirondacks. Plus, we've got some White Mountain history. We've got notable hikes. We've got search and rescues. We got dad jokes and more. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick.
Let's get started.
Let's get started!
So let's drop into our friend Christina's advertisement here for Wild Raven Endurance Coaching, and then we'll come back out on the other side.
Sounds good.
Hi, I'm Christina from Wild Raven Endurance Coaching. I work with athletes of all levels, from hikers to triathletes, helping you reach your goals with personalized guidance. With years of experience hiking, mountain biking, and trail running across New England, I also have a deep knowledge of the New Hampshire 4,000 footers and the surrounding trails. Whether you're a beginner hiker or a seasoned athlete, I'll guide you towards your goals, reducing injury risk and improving your performance through smart, tailored coaching. Are you looking to transition from hiking to mountain running? I'm here to make that journey easier too. My approach combines strength training, mindfulness, and life balance on and off the trail. Let me help you find more joy in your sport while getting stronger and healthier along the way. Visit www.coaching.christinafolsick.com and start your adventure today.
We do that, Marilyn, just so that we know where to put the advertisement.
Except we kind of leave it in now because it's just a thing.
We just kind of leave. We don't edit it out now.
It's a
We're
nice
very
little ad.
professional. Have you done So I did watch, actually, you and Christina did like an athlete spotlight. So I watched a little bit of that.
Okay.
But have you done other podcasts before? You must have.
Actually, for White Mountain Endurance and the Aravaipa podcasts on YouTube. Yeah.
Right,
So we've been doing them before the races. We haven't done them before all of them. Like the last two we didn't do, but we tried to do that before the race, just to give like here's what's coming up and talk about the race, talk about the course, and talk about the athletes that are running it and the update on the cup, the series cup, and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah. I have a link for that podcast as well. So we'll put that in our show notes. So you're an expert then. So you can judge us and let us know how professional
I don't know about that.
Awesome. So, all right. So this is the part of the show, Marilyn, where we typically do like, we just do some random topics. So between myself and Nick and Stomp and listeners will send us a bunch of things here. So the first thing we want to talk about here is that, I don't know if either one of you have been, Nick, I know you've been out, but the leaves are changing. Like I was in King Ravine this weekend and the foliage is early. So people get on it early. But we've got an article here talking about circadian rhythm, which is basically the body's adjustment to the cycle of the sun and how that impacts your health and your mobility. And there continues to be a push to eliminate daylight savings, which I think means that Nick, you're going to have to help me on this. Does that mean that we would not turn the clocks in the fall, or how would that work? And then we would just stay on the time? I'm
fairly certain. I'm going to weigh it. Marilyn can weigh into, but I'm fairly certain it means we don't turn the clocks back in the fall. So we just...
That's what I'm thinking too.
And I mean, I think a lot of it stems back from when people were farming more and like you wanted to get up earlier to take advantage of the daylight. And, or I should say when we'd fall back technically. So you'd want to not be waking up as early with the daylight. I'm describing this really poorly right now. Yeah. But it made sense back when you wanted to get a longer day in, I believe, and it doesn't necessarily hold true as much anymore. Not that nobody farms anymore, but it's not as much of a thing.
True, but there is a recent study that does, I guess, it does point to some issues with obesity and stroke outcomes depending on time policies and whatnot. So I haven't read the whole thing, and there seems to be a lot of charts and math and stuff to figure out on this. But if you're interested in going down a rabbit hole, you can definitely check this out, and it will show you, I guess, some of the data that can potentially, I guess they're saying that eliminating daylight savings could put a decrease in the prevalence of both obesity and strokes compared with the current policy. So something to keep in mind. You know what else can keep you from being obese, Nick, is eating healthy. And I've been trying to do that lately.
Yeah. Yes.
So, but I'm falling off my wagon because I'm drinking a beer tonight. So.
Oh no.
Nice. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a Cloud Candy from Night Shift. Oh, Night Squirrel Brewing Company. So it's not too tasty. It's not too bad. So anyway, so if you, every once in a while, I do feel like there's legislation that comes up about this daylight saving stuff. So write your senator, I guess, if you care. So, here's another science one here. Did you pull this one, Nick? This feels like Stomp might have pulled this one.
No, Stomp pulled this one. He pulled the first.
Yeah, scientists says being too skinny might kill you quicker than obesity. So I feel like the key is, Marilyn, you might have a perspective on this. I feel like the key is just balance. Like you shouldn't be too skinny, shouldn't be too fat. As long as you're balanced and you're healthy, then that's the way to go. Right?
I agree. Right. Yes. Balance.
Right. So anyway, we'll put this in the show notes, but I guess they talk about this Goldilocks of upper normal BMI range of 22.5 to 25 turns out to be the sweet spot for survival. But again, they have these like correlations and causations, and who knows if it's true or not, but they did, and people obviously have an issue with BMI as well. So
yeah, I was going to say that's kind of always an odd metric. I think if you're more muscular, it tends to kind of screw you.
All right. Well, people, think about this. Think about your circadian rhythm and then your BMI. Thank you, Stomp, for these. Now, Marilyn, do you ever hike alone at all?
I do.
Okay.
I mostly hike by myself. Okay. And with my dog. I have a dog.
Okay. All right. So you have a dog, so that's good. So the other day, actually, we maybe it was 2 episodes ago, we talked about how like when a bear if you get a black bear attacking you, 80% of the time the dog does nothing. So, but usually I feel like dogs are pretty good for protection, but we're going to link a video in the show notes of this guy. His show is called Covert CEO, and he is down by the Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas. And unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, there was a tragedy there where a couple got attacked and there were fatalities involved in this. So he put together a pretty cool video around self-defense on the trail. So the first thing he talks about is hiking poles and how to basically be like a complete and total ninja, Nick, on the hiking poles.
That's the first thing I guess you'd probably be thinking of if you're holding them, and they have pointy ends. So you could do some damage if you know what to do.
That's it. And then he starts pulling out the big gun stuff. So he immediately goes to pepper spray, which is good. You just have to be careful that you know how to use the pepper spray, because as we know, when I went hiking with my friend Stomp, he accidentally fired off the pepper spray on his leg and was burning his leg the entire time. So then he goes through a taser. You can buy a taser.
I don't know. You could just buy those.
Yeah. You can buy one on Amazon. I'm gonna put the link on here.
It's news to me. I guess I've never gone down the path of looking to buy a taser though. So
it's a Taser Pulse 2 self-defense stun device. It's $400. So, actually, you know what? It says, sorry, this item cannot be shipped to your select address due to local laws. So I guess you have to check. I guarantee you can buy this in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I'm like, you probably could just have it shipped to Stomp if we really want one.
I could probably, exactly. And then there's another one here, which is called a Biner Kinetic Ultimate Bundle Less Lethal Self-Defense. So this is a gun that seems to like shoot some sort of weapon that doesn't...
Oh, like the tase guns that like fire into you. They have like little hooks and they electrocute you.
I don't know what this is. No, it's not that. It's it's pellets.
Oh.
So, my God. The next time I'm just going to not saying anything to anybody on trail. It's going to be like, hello.
Now, are we talking about self-defense in general or just self-defense against bears?
No, we're talking about self-defense in general on the trail.
Just in general.
Yeah, but more like humans. So, but bears too, I think would be good. Then he just talks about rescue whistles and stuff like that. And then he talks about just general safety with Garmin inReaches and then glow sticks at night to carry those with you in case you run out of like a flashlight or something. Or glow sticks are good if you're lost and you want to leave like a trail of glow sticks and you're trying to make your way on a trail, you can leave them on there just so that you know that you're on the trail if you have to double back. So I thought it was a pretty fun video. He's an older guy, and he's if you come across this guy, if you're going to mess with him, you're not going to come out of it well.
It's like he's got an arsenal for you.
Yep. All right. So next up here, Nick, we've got an update on one of the fastest known times on the Appalachian Trail. So there's a guy named Jeff Garmeyer that we had talked about previously that was doing the self-supported fastest known time. And he set the self-supported speed record on the Appalachian Trail. He's going southbound, and he did it at 45 days, 12 hours, and 15 minutes. So he broke the record that was set by Joe Stringbean McConaughey in 2017. So he squeezed it in 45 days, and his quote was, "I got the adventure of a lifetime, and it's just really hard to believe I can go to sleep tonight and not have to set an alarm." So he's got a social media reel covering the whole highlight of the hike. So I'll post that on there. He said that he raised $27,000 for suicide prevention nonprofit Trevor Project. And and then he's also a calendar year Triple Crowner and I guess quite an athlete. So pretty impressive. Do you guys ever get any of these like crazy thru hiker legendary people? I mean, I know you get a lot of big deal runners, but any of these big thru hikers join up on the races?
Yeah. And, actually thru hikers are some of the best ultra runners because they are used to being out there for hours and hours or, several days on their feet. And they understand how to take care of themselves out there, and they can just keep going and just keep pushing through.
Right. And it's, the mental aspect of like, it's been a while. Like my endurance days, I'm getting old here, but like just knowing that you can, when you face adversity, like when you're in a tough spot in a race or something, like you can power through a lot easier if you're used to it. And thru hikers just face adversity constantly. Yeah. So for them, like nothing can bother them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching some of the videos that he was posting just even in the final stretch, and he was saying like the night before he slept like 2 hours, like even it just hadn't been sleeping that great. And his mental state, he's like, I'm probably going to run out of food, but it's like, but he's still kind of chugging along 45 days in. So I got to imagine too, just it must be so tempting just to be like, oh, I can go for it next year, or I'll try to train harder or whatever, but to stick to it and know that you're capable of doing that is really admirable. Great job.
No support team either. And it's crazy, like the record. So he's at 45 days, and then the fastest known time with the support team that Tara Dower had done was 40 days. So it's not that big of a difference, really.
No, I was noticing that when I was kind of looking at the times over this week. It's impressive. Well,
congratulations, Jeff Garmeyer. Very impressive.
Yes.
All right. One other safety thing. Our friend Al, friend of the show, Al, had sent over this update. In British Columbia, there was a search and rescue event that required a longer term search for an e-biker who had been missing for, I think, about 2 days. And they got the British Columbia conservation officers, a forest service had gotten this call saying that they were unable to. This guy didn't come back, and they were unable to find him. So they deployed these Talon helicopters with a new technology for their team, which is called the Life Seeker Unit, and the Life Seeker unit, from what I can tell, it's basically like there's a ground unit, and then there's a unit on the helicopter that's essentially like it sets up a mobile cell phone tower connection. So when you're in an area that has no cell connectivity, it will allow the search and rescue teams to basically scan the area as they go over in a helicopter, and then it'll identify pings on cell devices. So in theory, like if you get lost and you're in an area that has no connectivity, using this device will flag if your phone's on, and it'll basically connect to the cell tower, and then they can pinpoint where your GPS is. So that's how they were able to find this guy. So pretty cool technology.
Yeah, that's neat. It sounds like they basically work with local law enforcement to get a temporary sort of ID and work as a cell tower, and then they end up working through the network that the local law enforcement and jurisdiction has, and then they can kind of actually communicate with cell phones basically by there. So that's really cool piece of technology.
So it's newer technology. I do know that like my new Apple phone does connect to satellite now, and I've actually used that when I was on the Kilkenny Ridge Traverse. I used that to just text my wife at night to say like, hey, I'm at camp and all's good. So
how did that work, like with tree cover and stuff, Mike? Like, was it decent? Because I know sometimes, like, I have the older Garmin InReach Mini, and sometimes that thing is not fantastic. Like, if you're in tree cover, it can take a little bit to send.
I've had that too. I've had that same issue with Garmin InReach.
Like, I've learned with my wife to send like times when I send things, because like there was one instance actually in the Adirondacks like last year where I think the text finally sent and I was like 10 minutes from the hotel. So she thought I was like just leaving the summit now. And she's like, oh, I didn't think you'd be back for like 3 or 4 hours. And I was like, well, I'm here. Like, here we are. Yeah. But it was kind of funny.
Yeah. So my experience is you guys are exactly right. It when I was at camp, so I was on Unknown Pond, the campsite, and it basically tells you to point to the satellite. So you have to move your phone around a little bit. And then I waited maybe 5-10 minutes and it wouldn't connect. But then when I went down to Unknown Pond to get water, then I was able to get more of a clear shot at the satellite, and then it connected. And I just sent a quick note to my wife saying like, I'm here. I'm sending this to satellite, so I'll catch up with you tomorrow, but all good.
Cool.
So pretty cool new technology here. All right, Nick, so moving on to the next thing, you want to give a little education about the prominence of mountains. Our friend Paul Lamar sent this over to us. So what is this all about?
Yeah, so thanks to our buddy Paul for sending this over. And this was something that I thought was just worth going through, because I kind of was incorrect with what I thought mountain prominence was. So in my head, and I think most people, you think of prominence as just sort of being how high a mountain is above the surrounding land, which isn't necessarily true. So this Instagram account, Mountain Facts 1, which I've followed since, and he has a lot of, albeit some useless mountain facts, but I'd find them interesting. But basically talking about topographic prominence of a mountain summit. So topographic prominence of a mountain summit prominence is not how high a mountain summit rises above the surrounding landscape. That's actually called relief. So mountain summit prominence is actually how high a peak rises from the lowest contour line surrounding a given peak. So you can think of it as the lowest sort of circle if you're looking on a contour or topographic map surrounding a given peak. And this is basically the lowest contour line surrounding one single peak and not including any higher summits or any height of land higher than that summit. And he had some fun examples to show with this, so I thought this was cool and takes it sort of local. But one funny thing is that Greylock out in Massachusetts has around 2,500 feet of prominence, which is actually higher and more prominent than Lhotse out in the Himalayas. And this is kind of the example is that basically Greylock rises 2,500 feet above the lowest contour line surrounding that mountain out in Western Mass, whereas Lhotse kind of being bordering and actually sharing a ridge with the summit of Everest is actually only 2,000 feet. So it's kind of just a little different than I think what I thought of it. I figured maybe some other people would find this interesting, and kind of just went on a couple different things. So for our friend Mike, who's actually going to be going out to Hawaii out in October, prominence and relief actually can be the same thing. So one example was Mauna Kea in Hawaii is actually 13,803 feet of prominence and relief, basically because it's on an island and it's the single highest point. And being an island, it means it's surrounded by a lowest contour line that drops to sea level. So those two things.
I'm so excited to see this thing.
I'm excited for you and to share pictures of it. I'm pumped. So they can actually be the same thing. And then another fun thing, like San Jacinto out in Southern California that Ash and I did a couple years ago. It's one of the most prominent peaks. I think it's the 8th most prominent peak in the contiguous 48, and that's got 8,319 feet of prominence. So it rises quite a bit higher, even though it's only an 11,000 foot summit. And then our own Mount Washington out in the Whites has 6,146 feet of prominence, so just a little bit shy of the summit because that lowest contour line. And it's actually the most prominent peak east of the Mississippi. And then I just thought, just for funsies, I'd look in line. But Lafayette's actually the next most prominent peak in the Whites at just over 3,000 change feet of prominence. And then behind that, you've got Moose Lock that's just a little under 3,000 feet. And just kind of a reminder in regards to prominence, relating back to the New Hampshire 48 and their qualifications, basically, in order to qualify as a 4,000 footer, the peak needs 200 feet of prominence and to be over 4,000 feet. And then there's certain stipulations with this, obviously, with LiDAR surveys. I believe Mount Lincoln actually doesn't count because of the prominence rule, and Tecumseh also would not count. They're going to honorary on the list. And it's also mentioning like there's lists out there in the Northeast or just everywhere, like the Adirondacks, where it's really historical. A lot of the Adirondack peaks, like I think 5 or 6 don't meet the prominence rule, and they're also not 4,000 feet. But they're kind of just honorary historically there, and they just decided not to change it. And there's it's interesting too on that AMC FAQ page, maybe we can link it, but it kind of does talk about changes. The most recent changes were really the New England 67 4,000 footers and how that was affected on the lists. But yeah, fun stuff.
Right, yeah, and you also often see in like social media, people will chime in and they'll say like Little Haystack is one of the ones that comes up all the time. But there's a bunch of these peaks that are they don't qualify for the 4,000 footer list or any list just because of their prominence issues. So like Mount Height comes up quite a bit. Like to me, that would be that's one of the nicest summits in the Whites in my opinion. And then you've got like Boot Spur, and I'm sure there's a bunch of others that I'm not even thinking about.
I want to say too, under the new survey and the prominence rules, Gio actually would qualify as a 4,000 footer, but it's something again like they're not intending on changing the list. So kind of an interesting mix of how they use science and sort of those rules, but also like, well, we're just going to keep it on there because it's been on there forever.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was good. That question does come up a lot on social media, so thank you for educating us, Nick.
You're welcome.
Excellent. All right. So some New Hampshire stuff here. So Governor Ayotte has banned open outdoor fires for the foreseeable future. Good news is we got a bit of little rain coming in the next 3 days here. So I'm praying for like 2-3 inches of rain. But right now it's just way too dry right now. We're not even messing around with campfires up in Maine or anything. But so the governor has basically announced on Friday that open fires are banned for the foreseeable future as dry conditions continue across New Hampshire. There's a lot of issues. I'm hearing people's wells are drying up. It's really bad right now.
Yeah. I have several friends that's happened to their wells. Yeah.
Only once a week you're allowed to shower from now on, Marilyn. Okay. Can you live like that?
I don't know about that.
Right. I know. My father-in-law, he's right next to a lake, so I guess we can just pull water from the lake if we need to, but it's bad right now. I'm hoping we get more rain. So
yeah, I know. And related to New Hampshire, probably everybody's starting to think of foliage starting to pop in. And I was kind of looking this up because I'd noticed even when I was up a couple weeks ago up in New Hampshire, and Mike, I know you were saying that you were up in King Ravine this past weekend and the foliage is really popping. And there was actually an article that AccuWeather published that was mentioning, the leaves are changing. In last year it happened too. We had a drought, but basically they said coupled with the drought that we've had through most of August in the Northeast, and also the fact that there was a pretty good stretch of cold and unseasonably cold weather in the beginning of September, that the leaves are actually changing several weeks earlier this year. And it kind of goes into talking a little bit about what sort of prolongs that foliage, generally like warmer days and kind of cold nights. And precipitation help to kind of manage that. But the leaves in the trees essentially are tapping out a bit early because they're dry and it's been cold and they're doing their thing. So good if you're going up to New Hampshire and I guess the Northeast earlier for any foliage viewing, but unfortunate if I think by Columbus Day weekend or probably mid October this year, it's going to be pretty much done, especially in the northern half of the Whites.
Yeah, I'm actually happy because I'm going to be traveling all October, so I'm not going to be home at all. So I'm like, when I stuck my head above tree line in King Ravine and I looked around, I was like, oh my god, the whole ravine was popping with foliage.
It lit up for you, Mike.
It did. It knew that I'm not going to be there in October, so it said I'm going to give you an early present. So, all right, Marilyn, do you ever hike Welsh Dickey?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
In fact, that's a popular one for our run club.
It is. Okay. Well, I want to just give you I'm gonna save you some danger here. So about 0.7 of a mile up the Welsh Trail, directly on trail, there is currently it's roped off because there is a ground hornet situation there. So I guess some of Nick's friends were chased off, and one of the dogs was chased off as well. So Nick, thank you for warning all of us of the ground hornet situation.
I'm sorry that slipped my mind, but when I think it was around like the 11th or 12th, but they're up in New Hampshire when we were, and they're like, oh yeah, I was like, how was Welsh Dickey? And they're like, it wasn't great. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, their dog Frank, I'm guessing got he didn't get stung too bad, but he was pretty freaked out more so than anything. So they had to bail on Welsh Dickey and ended up doing something else. But I was like, sorry, I feel they've been trying to get up there a few times. I think last time some other weird circumstance happened, so I was like, oh boy. So hopefully Frank's feeling better.
I'm gonna have to buy one of those like non-lethal guns for Stomp and send him up on trail and have him take care of that hornet.
Take care of that nest for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're bad. They're bad on a lot of trails.
I had one
all over the whites.
I used to take like I have 3 daughters, and then I have like my nieces and nephews, and then their cousins, and I think that like the moms, like we'd be up in Maine, and like on the other side of Maine, there's like these railroad tracks, and I don't know if the moms were sick of the kids or they were sick of the dad. I think they were more sick of the dads, honestly, but they would send us like, all right, well, they're getting ready for dinner or whatever. So they would send us and like, take the kids for a walk. They're tired. They got to get some more energy out. So we would like walk around the pond, and on the back side of the pond, there's a railroad. It's the, I forget what the railroad tracks are called. But anyway, it's in Brownfield. And mountain divisions, the mountain division trail. So, but it's not the paved over trail. It's just real railroad tracks. And I remember the kid, there was like maybe 6 or 7 kids, my kids, and then the cousins, and they were all little, maybe between like 10 and 5 or something. And they're all walking on the tracks, and they're going from one like wooden crossing on the track to another, kind of jumping, because little kids. And one of them just triggered a hornet's nest. And it was like, I didn't know what was going on because the kids were like pretty far ahead. And I just saw like they would just like, the boys were like running towards me and like screaming. And then like one of the cousins she was littlest. She kind of froze up, and I was like, oh my God. Like, so we had to run and grab her and run away. But I could see how like a little kid could get in big trouble there if there wasn't an adult with them. So kind of scary. So I probably saved a life there, Nick.
Probably.
Yeah, I think I'll.
No, those the in-ground hornet's nests have been really. I've never seen them that bad before, but here in New Hampshire, and especially in the whites, they're everywhere. It's been awful. They were really bad on the Hancock's for a while.
Do you? So you got to keep an eye on the dog when you're with the. The other thing that freaks me out about the dogs is the what do you call it? The porcupines. So scary, right? If you hit one of those, then that's bad news.
Yeah, it's very bad news. The porcupine wins
every time.
Yeah. It happened to my dog once.
Yeah. Do you bring anything with you? Boy. Like, what do you do? Like, you just basically, you got to get the dog out and then get them to a vet to pull.
Get them to emergency. Pull them out. Yeah, no. No, you have to take them to an emergency vet. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Did your dog just like stumble upon one? Did he get any like quills in the face or anything? Or
he got the quills in the face.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Because, they're curious, and so they like to poke their nose into whatever it is. And thankfully he's only done it once. He has started to go after them before. And a lot of people say that dogs don't remember. It was like, they'll never learn. They'll just keep doing it. And I do know that that's true, but I was hoping mine would be different. So far, knock on wood, he has been. So when he has seen them again, and I say no, and I must sound like exceptionally like, you're like, terrified.
Human has tension.
Like, let's not do this again.
So he stops and comes back. Wow. So
that's good.
Well, all right. Well, Nick, I got a history segment. You want to do history?
Sure. I love history.
All right. So you could do we have the drop that says White Mountain history, right?
Yes.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
Do you like White Mountains history too, Marilyn?
I do.
Excellent.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, Mike loves.
This will be good.
Mike loves to read Appalachia articles in his free time. So
I do.
From the 1800s.
I do. So what's interesting is that so I pulled this article from the 1900 is the journal entry, and these guys were doing podcasts. They were basically setting up a podcast in like MIT and doing presentations about search and rescue stuff that was going on in Mount Washington. So they did a whole, they basically did a recap of these 2 fatalities that happened. So the event was October 1900, and the Appalachian Mountain Club's annual meeting, and I think what they did, most of the Appalachian Mountain Club members were academics that lived in Boston, and it was very much MIT and Harvard and all of those, and a lot of like high school, boarding school, like at Phillips Andover and all those. So they would all come together. I think most of their meetings were at, I want to say MIT. So they would have different rooms that they would go to and whatnot. And this was a presentation that Professor William Pickering had presented, and Pickering was one of the early presidents of the Appalachian Mountain Club that I think got involved in like the late 1800s. And he had a special committee of John Ritchie and then J. Rayner Edmonds, who is famous for Edmonds Coal and then the Edmonds Path that goes up to Eisenhower. So these were the folks that basically they did a recap and a summary. And what happened is that, so the presentation was in October. The event they're talking about was in June of 1900, the end of June. And what was going on is that the Appalachian Mountain Club would have their summer meeting at the top of Mount Washington at the Tip Top House. So this is in June, so June 30th. So there was two members of the Appalachian Mountain Club that were known as like strong athletes and active members, William Curtis and Alan Ormsby, both from New York City, both known as really strong hikers. So they basically did a southern presidential route to Mount Washington. So they went over Webster, Jackson, Pierce, and then the rest of the Southern presidentials, and their goal was to reach the Summit House on Washington. So as they were heading out that day, the weather deteriorated. So obviously back then, you didn't have like the higher summits forecast and whatnot. So you're just basically looking at the weather and saying like, all right, I can make it. Maybe I can't make it. They're figuring like it's the middle of, it's early summer. And we see this all the time. Like we've had 2 incidents, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years of hypothermia in like around this time above tree line. So it definitely happens. So as they started heading out, the weather was deteriorating. And one of the committee members basically said, it was rain, clouds, and windy at 60 miles an hour and cold. The trails turned into rushing brooks and the cairns vanished in thick fog and sleet, and they got hit with hail on the ridge line. So other people were heading up to get to this Summit House meeting for the AMC, and unfortunately, because these two decided they were going to do a more aggressive route, they were the last ones that were out there. So they were last seen near Eisenhower, still climbing up Eisenhower, and eventually they found William Curtis's body on Monday morning, July 2nd. So they basically were like, they knew that they were coming. They didn't show up, but the Summit House the weather was so bad that no one could leave from the Summit House until like the next day. And they started doing a search. So by July 2nd, they had located William Curtis's body by Lakes of the Clouds, and he had almost made it to, I guess, the base of Monroe. And then Ormsby's body was discovered lower down on the range, so it looks like he had collapsed. The committee members basically said both men were well equipped by the standards of the day and were among the strongest of the club's athletes, but their strength and determination could not overcome the sheer power of the storm. And Ormsby, they said, clearly was exhausted. He fell repeatedly while struggling forward. But unfortunately, like he just couldn't move onward. So the community basically looked back at some other fatalities that had happened. They called out the most famous one at that time, which was Lizzie Bourne from 1855 that we talked about. And then there were some other recent fatalities around that time. So they basically just said that, their takeaways were make sure you have adequate clothing. And then even if you're experiencing strong, turn back rather than face such storms. Let prudence, not pride, be your guide. So it's been going on, Nick, for hundreds of, over 100 years now. People have been running into these traps.
Yeah, and I was curious, I'm like, did any of that discussion in Appalachia, did it talk about, because I was noticing the Lakes of the Clouds, the original shelter was built in 1901. So it was pretty shortly after that event that they were like, hey, I think we need some sort of shelter outside the Tip Tap House.
Yeah, I think that's what triggered it. It was that this event, because I think I've covered this one before, and I think that was one of the things they said, like, let's get something in this area. And a lot of times these early hut locations were just caches where people could just dive into if they needed to.
Hunker in. And Ormsby has a plaque at the bottom of the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trail, I think, right?
No, I think that's a Dartmouth. That's a Dartmouth kid.
Okay.
He died like maybe 10, 12 years after that event.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it is crazy. Like I still think of like it was the day of the Mount Washington Road Race, I think 2 years ago, where the guy from Andover got caught up on clay and died of hypothermia. And then I think there was another close call this year with Canadian hikers that the Cog Railway had to go up, and it was right in late June. So it's like always seems to be like one weather window in late June, early July that like it just drops below and it's hypothermia risk, and it's just dangerous. So you got to keep an eye on they didn't have the higher summits forecast, but we do. You just got to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and even with that resource, it still can be difficult to sort of judge what's going on. I mean, that's the reason they put it out for like 48 hours or whatever, and it's tough. And I mean, sorry, Marilyn, you can go.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just saying, and some people, I don't think they know to use those resources, especially if they're not from around here and they don't understand it. They think, oh, it's summertime, and they go out, but they don't realize that we have those resources available so that they can.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's the problem with the people that aren't from around here. They've invested, they have their window of time that they can go.
Tough.
They've invested that time and they really want to have that experience. So it's really hard for them to say like, all right, I'm just going to turn around. So that's going to be my problem when I go to Hawaii and I want to hike. I don't care if the volcano's exploding. I got to get to the top.
This is my vacation. I am here. I paid for this trip.
Yeah, I don't care if I'm going to melt in the volcano. So.
I'll be fine.
It
can't be worse than Mount Washington.
Exactly. So anyway, William Curtis and Alan Ormsby of New York City in June of 1900. So interesting story. There's all kinds of tidbits. So Nick, anytime you need a history segment, I got you covered.
I know you're always good for that. And I didn't want to say the whole thing not being able to find cairns up there. That is like my worst nightmare in that range, is like cold rain and not being able to see where you're going up there. Like, man, gives me the shivers thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm just at the point now where I just don't. I mean, sometimes I press it a little bit. Like the day we were doing your bond, but like I'm at the point now where if it's even marginal, I'm not bothering.
Yeah.
Same.
So.
Are you ready for SLASR's Gear Review?
All right, so let's skip. We're yakking away here, so we gotta get through this. So I'm gonna skip a couple things here, Nick, and then we're gonna get to gear review. So trail runners.
So I'm going through my own experience of I had always used sort of Ultra Lone Peaks once I swapped over to trail runners, and I actually ended up picking up a pair of the Hoka Speed Goat 6s that I've been using through, I think, since probably like the beginning of the spring. They're getting pretty torn up. Been fortunate enough to get out enough. And I'm sure Marilyn can weigh in on this stuff as well. But I'm actually kind of going back to, I think, the Lone Peak 9s now. And I did have, and this is something that a lot of people have expressed to me, but I've found personally, and maybe it's just a trust and in my head thing, I could totally be full of it, but I do feel like the Max Track grip that the Ultra Lone Peaks have is slightly more grippy, and I trust it more than the Vibram soles on Hokas. There's been up and downs. I think the Hokas have lasted really well. They haven't gotten as torn up as a lot of the previous pairs of Ultras I had. But I am going back to the Lone Peaks again. I think they tend to fit my foot pretty well. I know some people that have more narrow feet. Like I was talking to our buddy Steve, aren't a fan of the Ultras. He has like Solomon's or something like that. I think the Ultras, I have pretty wide feet. They fit my feet pretty well. They have a pretty big toe box. But overall, I think I'm going to go back to Team Ultra for a while, but I liked the Hokas, I think, more than I thought I was going to like them. And I have Hoka running shoes when I run at home. So any thoughts from you guys on trail runners?
Yeah, I'm team topo. I am a topo gal.
Topo, okay.
Yeah, so it used to be that it really depended on the terrain that I was on. And for quite a while, I was going with Ultra in basically the Northern Prezzies. I loved the Ultra in the Northern Prezzies.
Yeah.
But the Ultra does not hold up on those rocks. They are so sharp, and I was losing shoes after just a couple of months. They would just get all, ripped up on the sides. And so they just were not as durable, I should say. And then topos, I was wearing more on trails that were more runnable, maybe not as sharp of rocks, or maybe that had some more dirt paths as well. But now I've been wearing topo. All around for everything. Now, Hokas are really popular in my run club. A lot of people in my run club are all about Hokas. So I've tried them, but for me, I should probably mention too, one of the reasons I like topo is because I need a wide toe box, which Ultra did have.
Yeah.
So Hoka is not for me because of I need a wide toe box.
Yeah, I got their wides, which I haven't had issues with. I did get a blister on my front toe doing a single day Prezi, but that's the only issue I've had. And that was like when I first worn them on anything really long. But I do agree. Like, I just have this feeling that the Ultras are just more comfy. So I might have to check out those topos, it sounds like.
Yeah,
it's a good shoe.
I don't know. So I'm a Brooks Cascadia guy. And I've been doing Brooks Ghost and Cascadia for like probably 10 years now. The only thing I know about, and I don't know much about this, but I do know that I've had some Achilles tendonitis issues, and I think the Ultra Lone Peaks are zero drop shoes. So I think that if you have a tendency, if you're a thru hiker and you're going to be doing like 20 miles a day consistently, and you just put on the Ultras, chances are that you might run into Achilles tendonitis issues if you're not like flexible around your calves and your Achilles. But otherwise, I don't really know. I haven't used either one of them to say for sure. But I'm just my theory, and from talking to Stomper in the past, I just would be careful about zero drop shoes, especially if you run a little tighter and you've had a history of repetitive use injuries.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean too, from running, for my running sneakers, I always used like Brooks like Ghosts pretty much too. So I was kind of coming from them for the past 3 or 4 years, and then I think it was again like kind of a sale. So I'm like, I'll check out Hokas because it seems like everybody is using them, and the running shoes have worked out pretty well for me. I kind of started just because the drop in those is different than I believe the Brooks Ghost as well. Yeah. So I'd kind of chatted with one of my running buddies and kind of started to walk with those and then go with them initially, and then tried the trail runners from there. But
yeah, well, you can go. A lot of these running stores now will. You go in and you step on the pad, and they do the analysis of your feet and stuff. My father-in-law had that done. I was going to have it done, but then I felt bad. I was like, well, if you're going to do that, then I feel like I have to buy sneakers, and I tend to buy like my sneakers online, my running shoes of trail runners online when there's a sale, and I buy like 6 pairs, so I don't need any. So, yeah. Anyway.
We all know that hiking a mountain can be hard at times. So here's a corny dad joke to help you get over it. Ba-dum-bum.
Marilyn, you like dad jokes?
I do like dad jokes.
Okay, all right, here we go. What do runners do when they forget something? They jog their memory.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Pretty good.
Nice.
All right.
I like it.
I'll do one more here. Why is Yoda such a good gardener? Why is Yoda from Star Wars? Because he has green thumbs.
That's actually very easy.
All right. So thank you to Camilla and Lance for my 365. Nice. I must have run through that book by now. We got 200 episodes here, so... Anyway, all right. Do we want to do Nick? We're doing 1 minute on the music. That's it. We're running behind right now.
Okay, I'll try.
Got to get to Marilyn. I want to talk all about her race courses.
All right, I'll try to cram this in so we can get to Marilyn quickly. This album is "Them Crooked Vultures" by the band Them Crooked Vultures. Came out in 2009. So stumbled upon Them Crooked Vultures, basically going down a rabbit hole with Queens of the Stone Age and their singer and guitarist Josh Homme. So them Crooked Vultures was a super group trio that consists of Queen of the Stone Age's Josh Homme on guitar and vocals, Led Zeppelin's John Paul Jones on bass and keyboards, and the Nirvana, or probably better known Foo Fighters singer, and Nirvana's drummer, Dave Grohl. So he's playing drums and backing vocals in them Crooked Vultures. So this side project was formed between 2005 and 2009 out in Los Angeles. And it was a long time kind of thing of them playing together and collaboration between the members. And they finally got their schedules aligned and decided to record some music. The album mostly considered hard rock, I'd say, heavily guitar driven. So if you like a lot of guitar solos and leads, this one's for you. If you're fans of any of the bands, which is like pretty wide array between Queens of the Stone Age, the Foo Fighters, and Led Zeppelin and everything else those three have been involved with, I definitely encourage you to check it out. Kicks off with the lead track, Nobody Loves Me, Neither Do I, and it kind of just keeps banging away through the whole thing. It's a good track if you like kind of guitar music for running. Been talking about running a lot on this podcast and with the theme. I find it's been really good. I've been listening to it for like the last probably few weeks, kind of on and off. And really only breaks up with a few different progressive tracks. There's been speculation about a second album since 2010, apparently. So maybe it'll come. It's 2025. You never know. They're all still alive. So that's promising. And then they actually did recently play out in 2022 for 2 tribute shows for the passing of the Foo Fighters drummer, Taylor Hawkins. Produced 2 singles. I know Mike always likes me to talk about the success of these albums, so he doesn't think I'm totally coming out of nowhere with these. But it did have 2 singles, Mind Eraser, No Chaser, and New Fang. And the song New Fang won a Grammy back in 2011 for Best Hard Rock Performance. So, them Crooked Vultures. Check it out.
I tell them, don't bring...
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll check it out, but I tell them, don't bring up these music minutes unless they got some commercial hits that we can talk about here. So...
them Crooked... Well, I'm definitely checking them out.
All right, so...
Excellent.
We like... Nick likes supergroups, so you gotta do Traveling Wilburys,
Yeah.
you gotta do Damn Yankees next or something, figure out something, so... You know what I've been on a kick lately is Heart. Ian Wilson and Heart. You know that?
God, Heart's good. Yeah.
That's good. Straight On. I've been listening to Straight On. That's a great song.
Their Christmas album's really good. That was like a staple in my house growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. So Barracuda is always a classic. So anyway, moving on from Music Minute here. So if you want stickers, if you want SLASR stickers, go check out Ski Fanatics, or you can get them at Spinner's Pizza Parlor in Andover, Mass. So check those out. And then if you want swag, if you want SLASR swag at our bonfire shop, you can choose between super popular hoodies, classic or V-neck t-shirts, and more. The color selection is great, and they are priced to move. Help spread the word about SLASR and represent today. And then we want to give a shout out to coffee donation. So if you want to donate coffee to us, that means you give us money, which is nice. So the donations help us pay for web hosting, distribution, and live events. And maybe if Nick is lucky, we'll buy him a baby present when the baby gets here.
Oh, great.
So Alex M bought 5 coffees. So thank you very much, Alex M. Did he leave a nice touching note about how the podcast has impacted his life?
I believe it was something about, if I recall correctly, it was something about how the seasons change, but his desire to listen to the SLASR podcast does not. So he's a loyal fan.
Oh, my heart.
I think it was something. I might have just.
Sweet.
I think I read that. It could have been someone else. I'm sorry, Alex. That's not what you said, but I definitely read that somewhere.
Alex, I'm just going to keep moving through life assuming
go with
that's
that.
what you wrote. Because that was
Mike is fragile. So
That's very
that
sweet.
was art. That was art. So.
Hey, hold my beer. It's time to find out what Mike and Stomp are drinking on this week's Beer Talk.
All right, this is the part of the show where we talk about beer. If anybody's drinking a beer tonight, I already did mine, Cloud Candy beer. Anything, Marilyn? What do you got?
I actually am drinking a Tuckerman's Rock Pile.
Oh, nice. I had one of those over the weekend. So
IPAs are my thing.
Yes.
I like double IPAs.
You do?
They're my
Okay.
favorite.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why not? You get more alcohol in one can.
Everybody thinks that's the reason I like the doubles. I like the flavor.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, I do too. What do you got, Nick?
So I've got a Paradox Brewery Pilsner. So they're one of the breweries that is up in North Hudson, New York, in the Adirondacks. Grabbed a 4-pack in Keene Valley before I got home. So good stuff.
Wow. This is like the first time I think in a while that all the guest and the host, usually it's me. I'm like, I'm just.
I think it's the first show since I've been on that this has happened.
That's why I brought the beer with me here
tonight.
I was expecting this.
Did the homework.
You did well. You did well. All right.
I knew we should have gone left back there.
Stomp, don't worry. I know it's this way. I've got a feeling in my gut.
Are you sure you're not about to have a bowel emergency?
Totally. We got this.
But I just blew out my hip. Fell down that gully with my 40-year-old microspikes.
Suck it up, Stomp. It's 4 p.m. We're at 3,500 feet. We got 9 miles back to the parking lot. Your leg may be broken. We got no cell connection, and we can't feel our fingers. But we're finishing all of my list tonight. By the way, I need some water. I'm empty.
I would if I could see what I'm doing, but my headlamp batteries are dead.
You gotta be kidding me. What a chump. This is the last time I hike with you.
Whatever, mister. Do you know me? I have a podcast.
Whatever.
Let's find out what Mike and Stomp have been hiking.
So this is the part of the show where we talk about recent hikes. So I can just give a quick summary of what I did, Nick, and then it's going to be 7 hours of Nick talking about where he's been hiking the last week and a half.
It's been a month.
So, yeah, you've been out a lot. So I got out to King Ravine, which was, so basically my friend Tom, he's an elderly gentleman. He's in his 60s now. So he wanted to go up King Ravine, and I thought that it would be best for me to come with him to protect him from injury and safety and all that stuff. So we went up the short line trail. Appalachia Trail was, the parking lot was full at like 7:15 we got there, and the parking lot was full. So if you're thinking about like a weekend hike, Appalachia on a Saturday morning, like just expect the parking lot's going to be full. Yeah. You're going to have to park on the road.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we got on trail, moved along pretty well. Short line is a great trail. I mean, it's very kind of mellow, and got right into the ravine. And there's a couple of cool little waterfalls before you approach the section where you get to the boulder field on King Ravine, and got some good photos of the waterfalls. And there's some cool glacial erratic rocks down there and stuff. And then we got to the ravine, a lot of like boulder hopping and stuff like that. We decided to do the subway, and I decided that I'm just too old to do the rock crawling stuff. So we decided to take our backpacks through there, which we would done. We should have just ditched the backpacks and just did the little loop.
Yeah, is that the advice? Is that's tough? Tight is just take off your backpack and come back and get them kind of deal? Or?
I don't know. I always hesitate to tell people to take off their backpacks because
how long is it? Like 0.1, 0.2 miles or something?
Yeah, it's like I think it's like 3 or 4 like crawls and scrambles or whatnot. Okay. It's a little bit like, I got a little bit turned around there. We went into the exit and then came out the markings on that thing are very confusing.
Okay.
So, but me and Tom got separated. I basically like bushwhacked back around to the exit through, I had to like do this thing where I just crawled on 2 crevices, and he wasn't having it. So I had to wait for him.
You abandoned Tom?
Yeah, he's elderly. He couldn't do it. But then we skipped the ice cave thing because I was like, I'm done with crawling through stuff. But then we went up the King Ravine, and that climb's awesome. It's like 1,200 feet of climbing, and there's a lot of like rock hopping and stuff. But then as you get halfway up, then the rocks become a lot easier. I just kind of zigzagging up and stopping a ton to take pictures and videos. And then there was a couple of groups that were along there where we were going up. There was like 2 other groups. And then I topped out, and one of the groups that had passed us, they had chilled out on like this little bird's nest rock that's right up by the top. And then they came past us, and then he realized, he was like, oh no, the girl, I think her name's Riley, she had called out and asked me if I was the podcast. So I was like, yeah. And then the guy his name's Matty Peaks. So shout out to Riley and Matty Peaks. And he gave me street cred in front of my friend Tom. He was impressed. But Matty Peaks is friends with Paul Lamar and Christian and that whole crew. So maybe we'll hike with him someday.
Cool.
Yeah. Then we looped around. As I've gotten older, Nick, one of the lessons I've learned is very much like when you top out at Tuckerman, and instead of going straight up the cone, I always like loop around and I go up Crawford path to top out on Washington. I've now determined that like the best way to go up Adams is to skip that last top section of Airline, go across the Gulf side and just get to that Gulf side junction and then go up Adams, that 3/10 of a mile where it's a lot more gradual. So it's a little more distance, but it's an easier climb instead of going straight up the cone of Airline.
Yeah, my gut feeling is always that I've only gone down that. I'm going to try to change that and go up Lowe's Path the next time I get up there for maintenance. But it seems like it's a lot more gradual looking at it than that last, whatever, 0.8 to Airline or whatever.
Yeah. And then got down to the huts. I stopped at that Knight's Castle. I got some views there. Stopped at the Crag Hut. Super clean in there. And shout out to Declan, the caretaker, because he's got those places clean as could be. There was no one in the hut. And then we went over. I grabbed some water at the water source in between. Then went over to Grey Knob. I sat in the rocking chair. I signed the book. And then we headed down. So it was a great day. The weather was like perfect. No wind. Foliage was popping. Highly recommend.
Awesome.
So what about you, Nick?
All right. I'll try to keep it brief because I just haven't been on the podcast for like 3 weeks and been up to stuff. But back at the beginning, September 7th, beginning of September, got out with our friends Peter, Jake, and Paul G. And we did a bushwhack to Hawthorne Falls. Kudos to Peter for leading most of the way. Hawthorne Falls is off the Gale River Trail. It was abandoned a while back. There used to be the original Gale River Trail used to go by it, but it's abandoned. Then we also bushwhacked to West Garfield, which New Hampshire 100 highest peak. That was an actual bushwhack. East Garfield is just basically a nice herd path with a wonderful view out from it. So I highly recommend you check that out if you're on the Garfield Ridge Trail. And then we get up to Gale Head because why not? It's just there. And gonna do an upcoming So You Wanna episode, I think, on that. So I won't go too far on the history and some stuff I found out about that trail, but it was pretty interesting. And then got up for a little family getaway weekend. And thanks again, Stosh, for filling in. But that's kind of what I was doing when you guys recorded that. But back on 9/11, we did the Flume Gorge together. Me, Ash, and Marilyn. Marilyn did most of it on her own, which was kind of cool. Then it was actually flowing decently considering how dry it's been. And obviously that's kind of just a normal, I'd say it like a touristy loop, but it's really beautiful. And then the next day got out for sort of an actual hike with Marilyn. I was going to do the double heads, and then I was reminded by a few people about the cliffs on the double heads. And I was worried about her getting near the edges of cliffs. So I was kind of looking at what was close to where we were staying in Jackson, and the elevation gain. And I'm like, I could just do Wildcat D from the ski slopes. It's like 2,100, 2,200 feet. And there's no cliffs to worry about. It's mostly like that loose sort of dirt road trail you're going up until the last stretch. So it worked out super well. I think she did like 800 or 900 feet kind of in and out of the pack. And then she also wanted me, which I was terrified as a dad for the first time, but holding her, and she's done Wachusha, she's done stuff, but she wanted to go up that final stretch of the Wildcat Ridge Trail. So I was holding like two hands, like, and she's like scaling up the rocks. I'm like trying to go behind her, telling her to like slow down and stuff. But it was a really cool moment being up there, her first sort of 4,000 foot peak on that platform and kind of hanging out.
You ever put that kid on a leash? You know, I see these parents, they get I never did that with my kids, but like I see some of these people with the leashes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to, I don't know. It's not something I could see myself doing. I'll hold their hand or do whatever.
Better to have them learn to stay. Yeah. Better to have them have voice command versus a leash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old is she?
She just turned 3.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, so,
wow.
Yeah,
it shouldn't even be scaling up that last section there.
Yeah, I was holding. Yeah, again, I mean, we've done some stuff around here and some other stuff in New Hampshire, but she actually likes that scrambly stuff more so than the kind of flat, monotonous trail. And she ate a ton of like M&Ms is kind of the fuel of choice. She ate a lot of M&Ms and candy again, and we kind of went back down off the platform and just had lunch on one of the rocks, kind of in the top of the ski area there, and hung out for a good amount of time, just walking around and stuff, and then got her back in the pack and went down, and she was like free. I think I might have shared a video to the SLASR page. I try not to share too much with my kid there. That's just sort of a privacy thing. But like she was giggling and laughing her head off when I was like kind of jogging down part of the Wildcat ski trail, which was like pretty adorable. She was loving that. So it was a fun day. It was successful. I had muscles that were more sore that I didn't know I think I had from carrying her up that in a pack, but it worked out pretty well overall. So shout out to the Osprey pack used to carrier. And then we took a break at Storyland the next day, and then the 14th we got out to Pondicherry.
Whoa, hold on.
Oh, I can't just glaze this over.
You went to Storyland?
We did. We took Rylan to Storyland and went. And I'd never. Yes.
So I have 3 daughters. My daughters are all in their 20s now, so I'm a little bit older. But like, all right, which way do you go? Do you immediately go to the little lady in the shoe, or do you go the other way?
So
like you got to go to the little lady in the shoe and get your sticker first, right?
So we missed the little lady in the shoe. I think people are surprised about this. I don't know. We missed it, but we went straight in and we went towards like the teacups, or like there's like cuckoo clock spinning teacup kind of things.
Are you kidding me?
And then we went to
You missed the goats.
Apparently we missed the goats.
Did you go to Cinderella's castle?
We did. So that's the first.
So you went,
the first thing we did.
Wrong way.
Apparently, well, I should have asked for a tutorial before we went and experienced. We're newbies to Storyland.
Yeah.
But yeah, we checked out Cinderella and all that good stuff. She was just too small to go on the roller coaster.
Did you go to Pedro's Mine?
No, I didn't go to Pedro. What's Pedro's Mine?
That's the one where you go underground and then the Coke bottle rolls uphill on the table.
No,
you know what I'm talking about, Marilyn?
No.
It's been a very long time since I've been. I don't remember that. I took my son there when he was young. That was a long time ago. He's 28. So.
Okay.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah. So.
I'm trying to think. We did the antique cars. We did we did the carousel. We did the swan boats, which was kind of fun.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Did you do that? You know, the thing I liked, it's a long line, but there's the fish thing. So you spin around and then you have the fish thing and you can move the fin to like spin around a little bit.
I don't know.
The flying fish, it's called.
Apparently there's more there than I'd care to recognize, but...
What about the farmer's tractor ride? Did you
do that? We did do the farmer's tractors ride.
And
we
did you do the
antique
barn
cars
that spins around?
No, we didn't do the barn that spins around.
Okay.
Where were all these things there? I'm going to have to look at the map next time.
Did you do Dr. whatever his name is with the ball pit thing?
We did do that. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah. I lost my kids there one time. It's a little traumatic.
They don't like ball pits anymore.
I guess I had a good time at Storyland with my kids, so I remember. But next time, you don't even do anything else until you immediately go to the old lady in the shoe and get your sticker.
Right, noted. When we go, likely next year, we'll go to the old lady in the shoe and I will get a sticker and I will
put the shame drop. Shame.
All right, I'll shame drop myself here.
Okay, what else did you do for hiking? We had a detour.
So before we headed home, and this is a nice trail I always recommend to check out that I'd driven by many times, but the whole Pondicherry Wildlife Refuge in Cherry Pond, it's off like Airport Road, I think in Whitefields, I think off 113, is a really nice hike. Once you get out to Cherry Pond, it's got fantastic views of the Northern Presidentials and the whole Pilot Pliny Range and that whole Kilkenny Range. That we'll be talking about, I think, in a little bit. But yeah, it was just a good time. And Ash being 8 months pregnant, it was pretty much her speed being a pretty flat rail bed out there for like 4 miles or so. So we all enjoyed before making the trek back to Mass. So that was it for the New Hampshire weekend. And then our friend Steve, I'd been in touch with him, Steve of Steve Eats Shit and Steve from the Cape that we refer to. We've been trying to get out to the Adirondacks together for a little bit, since he seems to be one of the only other folks I know who's interested in going out to the Adirondacks to bag high peaks. So he was going to be out there. He had a week off from work in which he was just migrating between the Whites and the Adirondacks and Vermont and all these places, which was pretty cool. And we met up and did most of the Dix Range. So it's kind of eastern high peaks area, the Dix Range Wilderness. We ended up bagging Macomb, South Dix, Grace Peak, Huff. There's a couple subsidiary summits in there. We did bail on Dix just because of time, effort, water. It was pretty dry. I already had Dix from October a few years ago. We were looking up to the Beckhorn and Dix, kind of from Huff, and we were both like, I'm like, we don't need to go for it. And after we chatted a little bit, we just agreed we'll go down and Steve will save it for another day.
Were any of these summits, did they have views?
Yeah, so pretty good views throughout, I'd say the entire range. Like every summit had a viewpoint or views in between. I think the most stunning all day. So to go up Macomb, and I should note, most of these are quote unquote herd paths, but they might as well be established trails for most of them. I think it can be disorienting in the range, knowing which way gets you to which peak if you haven't looked at a map for sure, but very easy to follow. But basically you hike in from Elk Lake for 2.5 or so miles. And eventually you catch Slide Brook and you actually hike up a slide up to Macomb. for maybe 500, 800 feet. And both of us thought it's pretty comparable, I'd say, to like the South Tri-Slide, like a lot of loose scree with ledge in between. Was wet in a few different areas, but nothing that we found particularly sketchy. There were 2 people that we saw hiking ahead of us that looked like they got cliffed out in one spot and had to backtrack. But I was letting Steve lead the way, and he did a fantastic job. Yeah, great peaks, great views, I should say, from most of the peaks out towards the Great Range with like Marcy. I think my favorite viewpoint all day was from Grace Peak, which was formerly known as East Dix. There's ledges past the summit that were just awesome with this bowl, and like foliage was really going along pretty good up there. I'd say even more so than New Hampshire.
Okay.
And yeah, it was just a fantastic day bagging all those high peaks. And like we were both saying like just a lot of the Adirondacks, they just kick your butt more than you think. Cause it was a 2,400 ascent up to Macomb. And then it's basically 500 down, 500 up to all those other summits. So by like summit number 4 or 5, we climbed South Dix twice. And then you kind of go up, and then we were looking up, probably had about another 1,000-foot climb up Dix. And then we would have gotten out with headlamps, and we're kind of talking. And I'm like, we both agreed. We're like, we'll come back another day. We've had a good day today.
Yeah.
So that was a fun little adventure, bagging some more high peaks. Put me over halfway through the 46. So that's 26 for me. 86 out of the 115, which I'm keeping track of. Steve is in the 90s or potentially the hundreds based on.
He's been out there. He's done a couple of trips without you out there. So I would imagine he's a little bit higher.
Yeah. So he's plugging away, and we did see a hornet's nest on the way down that we kind of looked at, and then a hornet flew out of it, and we both darted through the woods for about 100 yards because we weren't waiting to see if there were more behind them, but we ended up being okay. So that was good. And the next day, I wanted to get out something before getting home. So on the 19th, I've been checking out a lot of these peaks on the Lake Placid Niner list, which I'd say is comparable to like a 52 with a view, sort of in the Adirondack Lake Placid area. So Pitch Off Mountain with this lookout balanced rocks on it was just ridiculous views, and it was cloudy kind of when I got up there initially. And then I kind of went up to like past the summit of Pitch Off, like maybe a mile and a half. And backtrack. And by the time I was sort of back to the viewpoint, it was completely cleared, and the views were just incredible. Like I know Mike will talk about a lot of times with those foliage hikes, it's nicer to be a little bit lower when you're in the valleys more sometimes, and you're looking out to the higher peaks. And that's kind of the case with Pitch Off and Balanced Rocks. You're kind of looking out towards Marcy and Algonquin and Colden, sort of the Great Range. Then you got Lake Placid, sort of to your right, and just really beautiful with foliage. And it's funny, all day there were Canadian geese. Basically, I'm guessing flying south because they're Canadian geese, so they're flying further south because it's getting colder. But like everywhere, like I saw like probably like 15 or 16 V's of geese flying across south with the mountains and the clouds and stuff. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that sums up, Mike. Hopefully that wasn't too long.
That was good.
That's what Nick. I've been up to.
That was good. I'm jealous. I'm jealous because your resume is getting better than mine because you're going to do the 115, and I'm just stuck here in New Hampshire.
It's going to slow down.
I'm focused. I'm loyal to our subject area. So if I'm going to go hiking, it's going to be in New Hampshire.
Noted.
Okay. All right. So what do you got planned for the future? You got a baby coming, so you're done pretty much.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very local very soon. Hopefully get up this weekend for some trail maintenance and sort of a last trip to the Whites for a bit. So I don't know. See what's kicking around. It sounds like there's some prospective hikes and people that are going to be doing stuff this weekend. So I'm gonna weigh my options. See what's up.
I'm getting out on Sunday. I'm gonna take my daughter's gonna do her list, so we're gonna get Monroe and Jefferson. So
cool.
Some combination of that. We'll see how the weather
good
is.
for a car spot.
Yeah. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do ammo and then up on what do you call it, Caps Ridge.
Cool.
I think is the plan. So.
It's time for Slasher's Notable Hike of the Week. If you want to be considered for the Hike of the Week, simply tag Slasher on your social media post.
All right, let's move on to Notable Listener Hike of the Week here. So, Marilyn, did you know we were going to yak along so much, or we'll get to you in a minute?
Yes, I know how the show goes.
Awesome. All right, so Nick, why don't you do the Notable Listener Hike list, and then me and Marilyn can decide who gets the Notable Hike of the Week.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah, you got to pay attention now.
So right off the bat, we have Arlo the Beagle, who tagged us twice. Yeah, here we go, Arlo. You got some competition.
I almost always give it to the dog, but okay.
Tecumseh for 13 out of 48, and then they hit us back for a second tag, and they did Big Slide via the brothers out in the Adirondacks while Steve and I were out there. We didn't cross.
If you met Arlo on the Adirondacks, how amazing would that be?
Steve said when I went out to do pitch off, he's like, maybe you'll see Arlo out there. And I'm like, I don't know. It could happen. Could happen. So good job, Arlo the Beagle. And I'm glad you guys, they were asking for some recommendations for our next high peak or Adirondack hike. Big Slide is a fantastic start. And if you like it by the brothers, you'll do plenty fine, especially Ben the Whites. Okay. That friggin' hiker tagged us for Lynn Woods, I believe out in maybe Stomp's old stomping grounds.
Yes.
And Mount Pemmy for 22 out of 52 with a view. So almost halfway through the 52 with a view.
Not bad.
What Donna Hamilton photographs. Mount Success plane crash site. I didn't check this out when I actually did Success because it was a crappy rainy day and didn't get views. But have either of you been to that plane crash site up there before?
No, Mount Success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
It's cool. It's the thing that shocks me about it is how well intact the fuselage is. It's like you can walk right in it, and it's like an older plane for sure. It looks like it's kind of amazing how like tight those planes were back then. But yeah, it's pretty much an intact plane fuselage that you can go into, and and then the wings and everything is just, I try to imagine, like, I think it crashed in like the late 50s. I can only imagine what those people must have felt like. Like, I mean, I think those fatalities at the site, but also like just the idea that like in the snow in that location, you're so far away from anything that it must have been like just scary, incredibly scary for them. But it's a cool site.
Yeah, I don't know if I just hadn't seen pictures of it before, but like you said, Mike, I didn't realize it was that intact. I was thinking it was more like scattered, or a lot of the ones I guess I've seen between the Adirondacks and the Whites so far, like just pieces of things here and there, not like actual chunks of stuff.
This is a pretty big crash site.
Yeah. All right, so moving along. Our friend Andy, Summit Snack Attack, did Tumble Down, which I believe is in Western Maine. I looked at it and looked pretty scrambly, which I know is right up his alley. Yep. So it looked like he had fun there. Folkstar did South Carter and Imp Face, was remarking how great the views of the northern presidentials are from Imp Face, and they certainly are. So here's your competition. Wally and the Mastiffs did the Scour, which I believe is in Waterville Valley. Looks really pretty. B. Adams Photography, coming out of the Great Gulf over Clay. They kind of just shared some pictures, and they basically were showing the moon kind of over the northern presidential, so that was pretty neat. Laura Illy, Tuckerman Ravine Trail, Alpine Garden, and down Lion's Head. Brady Girl was chasing you, Mike. She did the ball pates.
Right.
Looked like she had a good time there. Mentioned a sketchy ladder, but really nice trail. 802 Trail Pups, more competition. Cardigan, they said round 68 of the 52 with a view in the comments on the post. So huge congrats. That seems like a lot of rounds of the 52 with a view. I also wonder if I just misunderstood it, but I don't know. Either way, it was pretty cool. Cardigan was my first 52 with a view peak, so neat. Jude hikes the Whites. This I had to look up where it was. It was I'm probably going to butcher this, but Monserrate Palace, and this is out in Portugal. So it looked really beautiful. Looked like there's some hiking trails and gardens around it. Our buddy Heart Disease Hiker got out with a crew. Basically with Sipruk 81, Roger Mainly Hikes, our buddy Paul Lamar, Smace 012, and KBH Ekman 2, they went up and did the Watcher. And it looks like they had a pretty good time. Looked like they got some injuries, which isn't the most uncommon thing if you're hiking up that slide to the Watcher with all the loose rock, unfortunately. Yeah. But it looks like they had a really fun day. I think they did peak above the Nubble later that day, so kind of a twofer, but looked like they had a blast. Good job, guys. Fit to Hike 603, gridded out September on Carrigan. Well, that's a lot of work. Well done. New Hampshire Mountain Goat Girl. Our friend and Summit sister Kathy finished her 48 on Isolation. Congratulations, Kathy. Nice. Then Zach Como, spectacular photo of Bond Cliff from West Bond, and it looked like the foliage in that area of the Pemmy is pretty far along. And that wraps up our notables for this week. So who's got it?
I mean, in my opinion, like this one's kind of easy. Like it's going to go to the Summit sister, Kathy, and the crew for finishing the 4,000 footer, even though the dogs always pull my heart. But I got to give it to the sisters.
All right. Any shout outs for you, Marilyn, that stuck out to you? Or
yeah, Heart Disease, that whole crew. Yeah. Excellent. Congratulations on a great day.
Yeah, they killed it.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yeah, that's a fun group of guys. So they're always up to fun stuff here. So
It's time for SLASR's Guest of the Week. Very cool, very cool.
All right. So, Marilyn, this is now your moment. So, we introduced you at the beginning of the show, race director for Aravaipa Running White Mountain Endurance Series. So, why don't we start off with if you could just give us a little bit of background. What's your origin story? How did you get into this whole like hiking and endurance running and White Mountains? You know, I don't know where you want to begin, but you know, we want to learn everything we can.
Where do I begin?
Yes. Don't say,
I won't go too far back. I won't go. We don't have that much time.
Right. Yeah. My father carried me up Wildcat D on the ski trails when I was a little girl.
So, in a nutshell, basically, my history is I've been an athlete, you know, my entire life. You know, and years ago did you know, all the road running, like the 5K races and 10K and half marathons, all the road stuff, and then got into triathlon, and then I got into adventure racing, which adventure racing consisted of multiple disciplines. So you would do like trail running, mountain biking, kayaking, and they would throw in like special tests and that sort of thing. But it was really anything on trails and in mountains is what I loved. And that is where I wanted to really like focus on, was anything on the trails. Growing up, I was like in the mountains, camping, all of that. So I always loved the mountains. So just kind of did that for fun. And I lived in Connecticut for a long time. I'm originally from the West Coast. I'm originally from California. Okay. So, but lived in Connecticut for a long time, and that's where I was doing that. And then ended up in Rhode Island. And I always was coming up to New Hampshire, though, just from the time I moved to the East Coast, always coming up to New Hampshire, doing all the touristy things originally, Lafayette and all of those things. But once I started, I'm trying to think how many years ago it was, maybe five or 6 years ago, I was just up here on a weekend and I was at Lonesome Lake, and this kid came running by. And he stopped and he asked if I saw this girl that he was running with, and they kind of like, I don't know, lost each other or something. And he was running, and I started talking. I was like, you're running right now? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, on these trails? He's like, yeah. So I was fascinated. And then he talked about this New Hampshire 48. And I was like, what is that? So he told me about the New Hampshire 48, and I was just like so intrigued. And I went home back to Rhode Island, and I started Googling all of this stuff. And I was like, I want to do the 48s, and I want to run in these mountains. So started researching, and that was in the fall of whatever year. Like, I think that was like 5 years ago. Okay. It was in the fall, and then the winter was coming. I never did anything in the winter up here at all. And I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start in the winter. I'm going to learn how to do winter hiking. So got all the gear and went to REI, and I got this guided, course on how to do winter hiking. And anyways, I started doing that, and then COVID hit, and then I couldn't come up here because we weren't allowed to come up here. And then as soon as we were allowed to come up, it was the month of July. And I was like, I am like ready to go. And I came up and I just banged out my first round of the 48s in like 3 months. I kept coming up here. I kept driving up from Rhode Island. I would take vacation days and I would come up on the weekends, and I loved it. And then at first I was hiking, and then I started connecting with trail runners, like really good trail runners. And we just connected online, and then I just learned from them. And so then I switched up, no more boots. I switched to the trail runners, and no more big pack, switched to the running pack. And it just kind of happened from there. And I did a 10K race at Gunstock. It was the 10K peak to peak. So it was you do Mount Rowe and over to Gunstock and down. It was just this little loop, and it was so much fun. And that was my first mountain race. I had always done like flatter trail races, and that was it. I was hooked. I was like, this is what I want to do. And so I started Googling what's next, what other trail races are out there. And I stumbled across, that was I don't know what month that was, probably the month of June, maybe. I think it was when Gunstock was. And then the Kilkenny Ridge race came up in my search. Kilkenny Ridge Race 25 miler. I was like,
boy, you didn't know what you were getting into for that.
Kilkenny Ridge.
You're going right into it.
I'm like, I'm doing that race. And I was so excited. I was like, now I have to go like check out the course first before I do this race. And I mean, I had already done the 4,000 footers, so I was like familiar with it. And then I probably should backtrack a little bit and say, after I completed the 4,000 footers, I was like, well, I was hearing about this grid. I was like, well, I may as well just do the grid. So I was like chipping away at that. And then the Kilkenny Ridge race, went out and did the ridge for the first time and absolutely loved it. I just love being out big days, backcountry, overgrown trails. I absolutely love.
Did you do, when you did Kilkenny, did you do the out and back, or did you just go one direction?
No, I went one direction. Okay. So it's a lot of extra work if you're just going out to do the traverse, because obviously you need to do the car spot. Yeah. And even the car spot alone is a lot of work, right, because it's so far from the start to the finish.
That part of the range and stuff.
Yeah. So it's driving up the night before, dropping the car, and then going and staying in a hotel, and then like starting, and then the next day, and then driving back to the car. So it's a long, it's a whole big process to do the traverse. Yeah. But I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And that's how it started. And that's when I met Christina. And these were all White Mountain endurance races, Christina's races, and met her. I started running in all of her races. And then after I had done them for a couple of years, I started doing other races and started volunteering for Christina, because the White Mountains are just, I'm like jumping forward without, like, I'm missing steps. I eventually moved up here because during COVID, after COVID, when I was able to start coming up here all the time, then the company I worked for, because this is not my full-time, I have a full-time career, right, and we were no longer going into the office, so I could move wherever I wanted.
Oh, nice. So you got the remote,
moved up to New Hampshire,
and then you can move up.
Exactly. Right. So I work remotely. Perfect. So I missed that step, moved up here. This is where I wanted to be. So started volunteering at the White Mountain endurance races, and then running, and then I would run in other races, and kept doing that. And then Aravaipa bought White Mountain Endurance. So it was now it's been 3 years. So the first 2 years that Aravaipa had bought White Mountain Endurance, they wanted to hire local event crew so that there's a set crew to work at the races. And then we also still have volunteers. So I was hired on the event crew. So did that for 2 years. And then this year they needed a new race director. And so I came on as race director at the beginning of the season. Right. So this is my first year as race director.
So I just want to butt in here for a second and just like for the listeners, and I hear the story all the time, and like I think it's actually like I've kind of experienced this myself, but it feels like along the way, like you either met people that were on trail or through social media or whatever, but you basically over a short period of time through hiking were able to kind of build a little network of friends. And
absolutely,
and I feel like that's so accessible to people when it comes to hiking. And even back then, when I used to do more endurance racing, I would do like the 5K, 10K circuit. I do the triathlons. Like I felt like I met so many people through like, hey, where do you train? Oh, you're close to me. So I do think that like the outdoor activities, endurance racing, hiking, I feel like if you're looking for avenues to make friends, like these activities are like really good as a channel to do that.
Yeah. And this particular, this community, the trail running community, the ultra running community, the White Mountain community is just such an amazing group of people. And actually, once I moved up here, I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to live. So I was renting until I could figure out exactly where I wanted to settle. And I actually ended up joining a run club. So I'm in the Waterville Valley, or just south of Waterville Valley. I'm like in the Holderness, in between Holderness and Waterville Valley. And I had met a group, joined a run club, the Mad River Run Club. And it was just this amazing group of people. And a lot of us became friends outside of the run club. So we now are actual friends. It's not just getting together every week at the run club. We're friends outside of that. And that's what helped me decide where I wanted to live. So that's what I moved to I'm in Ashland, which is, in the Holderness area. And this is and now I have this amazing network of friends.
Yeah, it's
all around me.
It's super cool. I think too, I'm imagining the trail running and stuff, and even those races is a thing, like even with hiking so I golf a bit, and my father-in-law got me into it, and that had been a hobby of mine for a while. But I think it's interesting with hiking, to your point too, it's one of those hobbies where you really extend across a lot of different people from different backgrounds and different ages, for that matter, of people who get into it at different times. And I feel like too, once you cross, like you were mentioning, gridding or doing more intense endurance races, like you do end up crossing a threshold where I feel like most of the people you end up crossing on the trail, regardless of age or where they're from, you end up having kind of similar personalities, inherently because of where you've found yourself. Like there's only so many people that you're going to find going up Mount Adams in January on like a winter day or things like that. Like, and there is a lot of people. I'm not saying there's not a lot of people. Like there's a really big community of hikers and runners and things up there. And I feel like the Whites, again, haven't been everywhere, but so far it's been an exceptionally really great community.
It's a huge community of type A lunatics.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's exactly
what
it is.
To put it.
That's exactly. And this particular group of friends, we were I forget, there were a couple of us talking about it recently, and we're like, and most of us are transplants. There are a couple in the group that are from here, but most of us are transplants. Yep. So we don't have like all of so now we're family.
Yeah, that's
cool. With each other.
That's great. So
it's cool. So
you volunteered your way into sort of the gig as the race director. So.
Yeah. And I loved giving my time because I love running in races, and I've started, it was very, very quickly moving up to the big ultra distances, and I appreciate the volunteers at those races. Yeah. So I want to be able to volunteer at races, and I still volunteer at other races, not just, the White Mountain Endurance, and I don't just work for the Aravaipa, but other race organizations that I am, that I've come to know them, and I do their races. Like, for example, like Race Mosey puts on some races that I love, the Devil's Den race, and then the Krampuslof race in December. Which I have raced in that the last couple of years.
Is that the one on Loon that they do it?
No, Krampuslof that's at the Dartmouth Skiway.
Gotcha.
Dartmouth Skiway.
Okay, I knew it was at least a ski trail.
Okay, and it's amazing. Yeah, and that's in December. So I like to volunteer for them. I volunteered at Mid-State Massive. So
do you have like a particular background in logistics? Because I'm kind of I'm like a program manager, logistics stuff. I do that for my day job, but I always sort of paid attention to the race directors and how races were managed. I've done a ton of look at those medals behind me, Marilyn. Look at all that.
Look at that.
Anyway,
I'm impressed.
So, but did you have like a particular, were you a logistics person? Do you have a lot of checklists or anything like that, or what got you into race directing?
No, I'm not a logistics person, but as far as the race directing goes, to step into this specific role, I know all of these courses very well, the courses themselves. I know the community. I know I have run in all of these races, and I have done enough races, so I have that part of experience. But the part of actually race directing, I have been in project management for a very, very, very long time. And it's very much like project management.
Right, that's it.
Yep. It really is. That's really what it comes down to. And then, of course, the rest of it is, it's customer service, and it's working with people, and
improvising when things go wrong.
Improvising, and honestly, in my full-time career, that's exactly what it is. It is problem solving. It is juggling a lot of different tasks at one time. So when you've been doing that for so many years, it's very easy to translate into this role.
Right. So can you break down I guess starting with the Kilkenny, let's do the Kilkenny Ridge race first, but you have a race series, basically. I think it's like 6 or 7 races. So you want to break down the races?
Sure. So right now we have 7 races in our event portfolio, and next year, most likely, we're probably going to have 1 additional race that we're hoping to bring on this year, but it was a little bit too late to bring it on. So we will probably have that one next year. We have just not officially brought that on yet. But so our race season starts in May with the White Lake Ultras, and it's an amazing race. It's a timed race. It's a 24-hour, 12-hour, and 6-hour, and it's loops around White Lake in Tamworth. So that is a great way to kick off the season. It's awesome for the runners because it's usually like the first race of the season. It's a great way for them to get out and get their training in. Yeah. Awesome venue.
And so it's a 24-hour, so the runners can set up their little camp. So I've been to White Lake. So for the listeners, basically White Lake it's on 16, like right in Tamworth, a little bit past Chicora in that area there. And then it's this awesome little, like I used to go there for the Reach the Beach race. They would have that as a transition area. But there's a lake there. And then what is the loop around the lake? Is it like a mile and a half?
So it's a 2-mile loop. Yep. And they just do these loops and they can come back into the transition area. We have a fully stocked aid station, or they can set up their own little aid station areas and tents. And they can just keep running and stop for as long as they want, run for as long as they want. So it's a really, really great way to just get out there, get in some miles. Maybe if people are looking to train for another race, it's a great way to practice just time on feet, running through the night, checking out their gear, working on their nutrition. So it's just it's a really great environment for people to get that experience. And we also have the 12-hour and the 6-hour.
How does it work then in terms of, is there like placing for that? If it's, so is it just who's running the fastest pace basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's based on, so how many miles at the end of the event, who has the most miles.
Which I guess it has to be the most mile. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anything over 100 miles, they'll get the 100-mile belt buckle.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, I've done a couple of marathons. Like I can't imagine running 100 miles. Like I can't, it just seems impossible. I know people do it. I don't know how they do it.
I know. And that's what we always say, oh my gosh, never could do that. And then all of a sudden you do it. It's amazing.
So, all right, then what's after what?
So we have the White Lake Ultras at the beginning of May. And then in June, we have 2 events. At the beginning of June, we have the Chicora Mountain Race, which you have done before. Mm-hmm. That is still in effect. And the end of June, we have Race the Cog. And the runners can do either the summit climb, where they start at the base, run to the summit, and that's where they finish. Or they have the round tripper. So they run up and then back down and they finish at the bottom. So they're 2 separate races.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, so I just took my father up the Cog Railway like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And I will tell you that the conductors on the Cog are very proud of that. Like they include that in their sort of their presentation to the riders. And they talk about how every year now they do that race and how I think is it Joe Gray? Was he the?
Yes.
So they talk about how he had, I think the Cog beat Joe by 30 seconds last race. Yeah. So they talk about that on the, I'm assuming they cover that on like every single ride. Yeah. So they're very proud of it.
Wow, that's great to hear. The Cog, they're wonderful to work with. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful to work with. Yeah. So they've been great.
Well, the whole concept and visual of someone just racing a Cog train is like incredible. Like it's the pictures from that event are some of my favorite of all those events that you guys put on that I've seen pictures of.
Yeah, it's good. And then of course the Mount Washington State Park, they're great too, because obviously we're up there. We finish up there, or the runners are coming back down. Patrick, is amazing, and they're all just so great to work with. They make it easy.
Great.
They make it easy for us.
And then what happens in July?
And then July, we have the Bald Face Scramble, and which you said you help maintain the Bald Face.
Yeah, and I apologize. Like next year, I'm going to make sure that thing is pristine. I think I got up one time to clear like one section from north to the Cole, but the trail was not well cleared in the section between Eagle, Link, and North Bald Face. So, but we're going to get up there and make sure that it's pretty cleared out. But I did.
You guys do amazing work.
I got north to south now. But what is the route on that? Is it up to south?
Well, so there's 2 race distances in this event. There's the 29K and there's the 14K. So the 29K does the Bald Face loop, and then they come back down to the field, the Bald Face farm there. Yes. The family lets us use their field. And then if they're doing the 14K, they just do the bald face loop, come down, and they finish. If they're doing the 29K, once they come down, they have to come back down to the start finish at the field, and then they head back out, and then they go out to the road, and then they go up the road a little bit, and then they take that next trail up to go up to Eagle
Link, yeah.
Eagle
Link, yeah.
Yeah. So they have, I can tell you the exact loop is,
yeah, I may do this one next year. I'm gonna try.
The meter trail, the Mount Meter Trail. They'll take the Mount Meter Trail, and then they go up to Eagle Crag, and then they do the loop back down.
Oh, wow.
And that's for the 29K.
Wow, that's a tough run.
So, yeah.
Oh, is that like 6,000 feet of elevation gain, probably?
Probably, yeah, I would think.
Yeah, for the 29K...
I love the
29K, has 6,226 feet of gain.
That's solid. That'll get you going.
14K is 3,479.
Still solid.
Yeah.
Well, and the Baldface is a new race, right?
It is, yes. Yeah. This year was our second year.
And then I'm assuming like at this point, like I know that like I remember like when I ran the Chicora race, like I think it must have been Christina that gave the run. She was basically like, look, the Forest Service has given us a permit to do this. Like this is like something that they haven't approved before. We need to make sure that like not a single speck of paper or anything falls on the trail. We need to show them that we are a community that can be trusted, and that we're going to stay on trail, preserve the sort of the all the rule, or we're going to adhere to all the rules of the White Mountains. So I think, and we all sort of realize like, there's a certain responsibility that comes with this because the Forest Service is allowing us to do this race. And I remember that. And I remember everybody sort of like just the way that they talked about it. It was like, we were like, oh, wow, we're actually part of something that's kind of new here. And it's really cool to look at it now and say like, Baldface is a new one. And then Jigger Johnson is another one. So like really the partnership with the Forest Service, and also the level of respect that the trail runners give the trails. Obviously, it's a testament to Christina and the White Mountain Endurance races, and then when Aravaipa took over the transition, which is cool. Yeah, Christina started something just incredible. She's the one who started all of these races and established the relationship with the forestry, and really earned the respect. And they respect her very much. So then when we came in, it was, having to, continue that. I gotta keep that level up. We have to, exactly. So far it's been amazing. It's been great communication, great talk. And that's really what it's about, is just communication with them. And hey, is there anything that, that we need to change? Was there anything that happened that we need to be aware of? And so it's been really great. It's been a good working relationship, continuing to work with the forest. Awesome. And then what comes in August? So then in August, we have the big one, the Jigger Johnson. That's our big race. We have the 100-miler, the 50-miler, and the 20-miler. And that's a full weekend. And that is incredible. A lot of our races this year sold out, and the Jigger Johnson sold out this year. Wow, so we had, and essentially you go like, I don't know the exact route, but essentially like you go from the Moat Mountain Range, somehow you end up in like Waterville Valley, which is crazy. So the 100-miler starts in Waterville Valley and heads over, Tecumseh, Osceolas. They go back to Sawyer Pond area, over Tremont, out 302, and then we go back on these ski trails to get over to the Bartlett Experimental Forest, and then up Bear Notch Road, up Table Mountain, not the summit, but we don't go this far, but the Table Mountain, Attitash, down, and then up the moats, over the moats. Oh my God. Down to the moat parking lot, South Moat parking lot. And then they turn around and come back and do that same. They do the same route back. That's the 100-miler. How much elevation gain is that? So the 100-miler is 29,000 feet of gain. Oh my God! I know Aravaipa is
it's actually 108 miles.
Aravaipa is like a bigger company. Like they have like nationwide races. They started in the Southwest and they have some huge races. But are you starting to see and I know we get some in the Northeast, like there are some legit, ultra runners that show up here, but are you starting to see more people gravitate to the Northeast with this series now that have the huge resumes?
Yes, we absolutely are. Every year now we're seeing more people coming from other states. This year we had people from all over coming from other states to do the Jigger Johnson. And I believe that next year is going to be even bigger.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to grow because it keeps growing as far as now, people, more word of mouth, more people are posting about it, more people are sharing the story, more people are getting this out there.
Yeah. Do you think that the Jigger Johnson, it's basic? So then it sounds like it's becoming one of the premier Northeast events then.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Look at you. You're super important now.
And
I was going to say that's going to be one of the more difficult ultra races in the U.S., I would think, in general, right?
It absolutely is.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be. I know. One of my cousins has kind of gone down the rabbit hole of ultras a bit. One I did a Pemi loop with a couple months ago, but he had done one out in Albany. But I believe I know J Peak does some crazy ones. It's funny. A lot of those ski resorts do ones too, where you're literally just doing hill repeats.
Yes.
Over a marathon length, which is wow. It's incredible.
Yeah. All this named after a guy that he had a liquor still that he exploded on a mountain.
And now he has a campground named after him.
He's got a campground.
How about that? He did pretty well for himself.
He went legit after his death.
That's what they say, right? We're more famous after we die.
So have you ever had anything happen during these races where it just complete a vendor didn't show up or a disaster? What's the worst disaster you've had when you ever been with? So
honestly, I would say the worst thing that's happened so far actually was this year, and it was off. And really, in the scheme of things, could there have been something worse? Yes. But to me, this was really awful, was at the Jigger Johnson. So the 50-mile race starts at the moats and comes this way. Okay. So we shuttle the runners from Waterville Valley, because that's where they're going to finish. Yeah. We shuttle them on buses over to the start. And this year, so the runners are there, they do their packet pickup, their gear check, everything, and now they're waiting for the buses to come. They're all standing there all cold in the parking lot waiting for the buses, and the buses were late. Well, the buses didn't arrive. So I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. So I called the bus company, and, this is a Saturday morning, early in the morning, but there was a number to call on your event day. It wasn't the office number. So I called the number. And I told her who I was. And I said, I'm going to have runners here. I am waiting for 2 buses to arrive. And then she pulled the information up and she goes, oh, I am so sorry. And she goes, oh, that's a mistake on our end. I said, yeah, it's a mistake on your end. I was like, we have these buses. I'm like, I am looking right at, I'm doing everything from my phone, so I pulled up the PDF with the confirmation and everything. And I said, so what are you going to do about it? I have runners here that need to get to the moats. Let me see if I can find some, replacement drivers. And it was I felt awful because here these runners are waiting, because you time everything, right? You are ready from, the night before, you're timing everything you do for the time of your race start. So now they're standing there, they're cold. Now they're not, everything's thrown off schedule. So anyway, a little bit of back and forth. She was able to find a couple of drivers, but the time they could get there. Anyway, needless to say, it ended up being a 2-hour delay in the race start, which that is not cool at all. No. Thankfully, the runners were just very understanding, because they understand, it's out of our hands, there is nothing we could do about it. Yeah. So the bus company found some drivers, got them there, got them to start. So that to me was just awful, because that's just not cool. Not a good way to.
But it's bound to happen. I mean, it's just life happens.
Yeah.
And, you work through
exactly. In fact, we had a lot of help here from Arizona helping us, because for Jigger Johnson, that's the biggest race. That's one with the most logistics. That's where we need help out from Arizona. So so one of the people who was out here helping, she just shook her head and she goes, happens to us all the time. I was like, what? She goes, yeah. She goes, these bus drivers, she goes, they do it to us all the time out in Arizona. It's like, oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah. All right. So then July, you've got Jigger Johnson. That's crazy. We're going to have to volunteer for this one. August. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
we would love volunteers. In fact, I wanted to talk to you about that actually on this show.
Yeah, we will plug for volunteers.
The volunteer situation. Yeah. So, so that's August. And then we also have another race in August, which was new to us this year. It's the Black Bear Trail races. Okay. These were previously with Fresh Tracks Racing, and they became a part of Aravaipa this year for the first year. Okay. So that is also in Waterville Valley, and there's a 50K, a 23K, a 4-mile run, and a 1-mile fun run, which was huge. And there were so many kids, and they were so cute, and that was so much fun to see these kids running. It was adorable. So that's in Waterville Valley in August. And that 50K course, just to mention, it's basically the Jigger Johnson 20-mile course, but plus some extra ski trails. Okay. So it's very similar. So for those who maybe like the 20-mile, like the Jigger Johnson, the whole race sold out. So some people who still wanted to do it, they were able to do the Black Bear Trail race and still do a similar course. Okay. And then in September, we finish off the season with the Kilkenny Ridge race. And we have the 50-mile, the 25-mile, and the 25K.
And that just went off.
We just had that this past weekend.
I'm blown away like that. Do you do any coordination with anybody? Like, can you get somebody out there to clear the trail on the weeks? Because it's just insane out there. Like I did the traverse I don't know, in July, and it's just like you couldn't even see the trail below. I know.
I've done the ridge several times, and it always seems to be a mess. But yes, there is the Coas Trail Association that they go out there. They do so much work on that trail. It is amazing how much work they do, and they had done a lot of work before the race, which they have been doing. But then come race day, there still ended up being more, I guess I don't know if they were newer blowdowns or what happened. Yeah. So there were still quite a few blowdowns, but it's to be expected on that trail. Yeah. We do, like I said, work with them to try to get it cleaned up, and they did do a lot of work. But there did end up being some blowdowns.
No, does that start at South Ponds, or does it start at the Star King side?
So the 50-mile starts at South Pond. Yep. Okay. Goes over to, once they go over Star King, come down, then they go to the Jefferson Inn, which is right up the road. Okay. So we work with them. They let us use their parking lot for the turnaround, and we do a little aid station there, and we have porta potties and stuff. And then they turn around and go back. But the 25-mile, we bus them from South Pond. We bus them over to the Jefferson Inn, and they start there. Okay. And then they just come to South Pond.
Yeah, you know what's crazy too is that, like, you know, that little pond after Rogers Ledge, as you get in the unknown pond, there's that whole thing is gone.
The big beaver.
Yeah.
I call it the beaver pond.
The whole walkway, the whole it's gone.
It's all sinking.
Everybody you got to tell them, like, all right, you're getting your feet wet within the first 5 minutes.
You absolutely get wet going through there for sure. All right. So, and then we have the 25K distance now, which we added on last year. And that starts at the Berlin Fish Hatchery, and then it goes up York Pond Road, and then the Bunnell Notch Trail. Then they go up to Cabot, and then the whole rest of the way is the same as the rest of it. Because the others come through Willard Notch.
Okay.
And then over to the Bunnell Notch before heading up to Cabot. Okay. And the 25K comes up Bunnell Notch.
Okay. Cool.
So, so those are the races currently in our event portfolio. And also part of this is we have the Endurance Cup Series. And what the Endurance Cup Series is that is 4 races, and these are all sub-ultra distances. And that consists of, we have the Chikora Mountain Race, the Bald Face Scramble, the Jigger Johnson, the 20-mile Jigger Johnson, and then the Kilkenny Ridge, the 25K. So those make up the White Mountain Endurance Cup Series. And to be eligible in the series, you have to run 3 out of those 4 races. So you can just run 3 or you can run all 4 of them. And it's run on this point system based on like the winner of each race gets 100 points. And then all the others, like the points are like divided up based on their time. And then at the end of the series, whoever has the most points, we do separate a men's and a women's, and they are crowned King and Queen of the White Mountains, and they get an award, and they get an invitation to join the racing team, the Northeast Aravaipa Northeast racing team for the following year. And then everybody gets a finisher award. So everyone who, actually all of the races, we have the podiums, but then everybody gets a finisher award also. But also for the Cup Series, you get a cool Cup Series finisher award too. Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun.
I remember when I used to do the Mountain Goat Series, like that was everybody that did those Mountain Goat races, they would get an entry in the Mount Washington Road Race, but then they would also get the award. So it's very cool. That's awesome for so basically this is sort of like the Mountain Goat Series, but it's for ultra running in the
and adding I would really, really like to see the Endurance Cup Series grow. All of us would love to see it grow. So we're thinking of more ways to kind of, really get that out there. It's just such a great way for people to come into the running. I think there are a lot of people who are interested in these races, but maybe don't really know where to start, or the bigger distances just are a little bit scary. So these distances are perfect. And, the cutoff times are great. It's like, it's allowing for a lot of people to come in and experience it. So we have every level of athlete out there. And a lot of the people doing these races are, doing power hiking, through these mountains. Well,
so I want to talk about the volunteer stuff in a minute. Yes. But before we do that, I want to give Nick I've been thinking about this, but I want to give Nick a homework assignment. You don't have to answer right away, Nick, but if we were to create a new race in the White Mountains, can't be on the Appalachian Trail. It has to be like somewhere off. You have to pick a race location, and then you have to come up with a cool name for it too. So ponder on that, and then Marilyn, you can, if you can tell us about the volunteer, like what's the? Have you been struggling to find volunteers? What do you need from us?
Yes. So volunteers. We could not do these races without volunteers. Yep. They are crucial. They are so important, and we appreciate them so much. And it definitely takes the volunteers to make these events possible. And for every event, we do have a link. So on our race website, there's a race, and then in that, with all the information, there's a link to click on to volunteer, and then you go to that volunteer. It's through iVolunteer, and it shows all the different slots that are available, and it explains the shifts and times and what it entails and all of that. So that's where we try to promote on social media. So I don't know if I don't know, anyone out there in the audience might have suggestions of other places that we can go to put this information out there, because these are all, these are on trails. All of the volunteer spots are not necessarily out on course. We need people to do a lot of things, the packet pickups and working at the finish line aid station and handing out awards. And we need volunteers for a lot of different positions. But maybe if there's some other platform out there, a place where we could, put it out there when we're looking for volunteers. And for the Kilkenny Ridge Race specifically, and I thought maybe you might have some ideas, or again, the audience that listens to this podcast, for the Kilkenny Ridge Race, one of the biggest challenges that we have is the backcountry aid stations. Right. So we have an aid station at Unknown Pond, which you're familiar with, and at Willard Notch. So those two aid stations, it's hauling up gear, it's hauling up the supplies, it's camping out. We have different shifts. They don't necessarily have to do that, but we do need people to do some of the hauling, to do some of the camping out, or to just be there for a shift during the day to help the runners as they come through. And it's filtering water at those water resources, filtering at Unknown Pond, filtering at Willard Notch. and just taking care of the runners. So that was a really big challenge. So
and Willard Notch was running very slowly. Like when I was there I can only imagine what it's like right now.
It was very slow. Yeah. All of the runners got water. The volunteers, and actually we had crew there as well, did an amazing job, keep filtering water and keeping everybody hydrated. But it was a challenge because it was a trickle.
Yeah. And it's tricky too, because you can't just like, let me get the high school football team, because you can't send those kids out in the middle of the woods. So you have to get like experienced hikers. So
exactly. So that's what we were thinking is there like a group, or how do we get out? How do we reach out to these, amazing hikers and backpackers who might be interested in doing something
we got a little network. I don't have any great ideas, but like definitely reach out to us, and like I can drag some friends out into the woods for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch with us. We'll put the call out on the podcast,
absolutely.
and then through our little network. And then Nick, did you come up with an idea for the next race for the White Mountain Endurance Cup here?
I don't know if I have a name, and I don't know too, to be fair, if any of the routes cross through there, but the whole white face past the Conaway Tri-Pyramid area, there's in Wanalancet. We were chatting about an episode on that for So You Wanna pretty recently, so it's fresh in my mind. But that whole trail network seems like it'd be pretty wild to do something through. And I was going to say, Mike was saying ignore the AT, but the whole RMC trail network on the Northern Presidentials seems like you could do some really crazy stuff in there.
Yeah, you could do like the the Spider Web Challenge.
Yeah, or the Spidey Challenge. Like, I don't know, because it's a lot. It's more climbing than. I mean, I know I've seen some of what these trail runners do. It thoroughly impresses me, but there's certain points in that where you're going to be climbing, you're not going to be running. So those two things came to mind. The final thought I had was something I've been keeping with, sort of that Kilkenny theme, is that whole like the Nash Stream Forest area up north around the Percy Peaks, Sugarloaf. There's a pretty good trail network. And again, I guess that's the continuous of the Coos Trail. Kind of in that corridor there, but that seems like it'd be a really beautiful area and really a little bit more wild as well back there. You're not getting as much traffic.
Good job, Nick. I was thinking about this question before we recorded, and I was thinking like the Ossipee Range where that Castle in the Cloud area is there. Like that's a big field right there, and you could do you could call it the Black Snout Blowout or something. I don't know.
The Black Snout Blowout. You did think about this?
I was like,
that's interesting that you say that, because I've been trying to just brainstorm for some ideas for next year as well, and the Ossipees.
Because
one of the that I had added to my list of.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the Ossipees too is like those carriage trails are like unbelievable to run, because they're like, especially coming down from Roberts and then heading over to Shaw. There's extended like 2 mile sections of that are just like wide open carriage trails that are like really gentle to run. So, but I don't know.
The Belknap range seems like
that. And the Belknaps as well.
That seemed like that you could do like a lot in there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I know there used to be races at Gunstock, and they're not anymore. I'm not sure what ended up happening.
It's a state-owned. Who knows what?
But but I thought that would be interesting to look into as well.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been awesome, Marilyn. We're kind of running up on time here, but is there anything, Nick, did I miss anything, or is there anything else you want to? So we'll put the link to the podcast about the individual races. We'll put the link to the Aravaipa main page, and then we'll also make sure that we put the White Mountain Endurance Series page on our show notes, and then we'll look for the volunteer side of it. We'll include that as well. And then you should just stay in touch with us. Come back on in April.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll just basically put the call out again. You can sit in. You can be a co-host.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I think, Nick, we've kind of run out of time. We got to do the search and rescue next week.
Yeah, I think we'll save that for next week. But this has been great. Thank you very much, Marilyn, for sharing.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate too you sort of calling out. It's like, because it is intimidating sometimes when you look at the mileages in those. So I like that you guys do like 25Ks and like things that I'm like, that seems slightly more accessible. Like that's really neat. That's really neat. Yeah. I didn't know that myself, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I would like to do a race. I got out of racing a little bit. I find satisfaction because I run on my own in the trail systems where I live, and then with the hiking, I find that it's satisfying. But it is kind of fun to like have a goal that you're going towards, and I kind of maybe I miss that a little bit.
And just the environment, the vibe. It's just it's just so exciting, and it's just it gets everybody just so pumped up and just excited to be out there. And It's a really good time. And afterwards at the finish line, everyone's hanging out and eating food and
right. And we can't finish the show either without calling out the fact that like our own Stomp is spinning Tasty Beats at a number of these races.
He sure is. He is.
So,
Tasty Beats.
Yes, that's what he calls
Very
it.
tasty
Beats. So, so if you want to meet Stomp, like you come to the, I think he does the COG, he's done the
White Lake Ultras,
White Lake, and then Chicora, I think he did once or twice.
And he does not do the Chicora anymore, but yeah, White Lake, Race the COG, Jigger Johnson.
Yep. So. Yep. Our own Stomp, you can meet him there, so for sure. So, but anyway, Marilyn, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Marilyn.
Hopefully, I know you've been on other podcasts. Hopefully, we were okay compared to those.
You are amazing. I love you guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Awesome.
I enjoyed it.
All right, we'll see you on 211 next week, folks.
All right, bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hell!
Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.